Mark Lawrenson, good morning to you.
Morning.
We'll come to all the penalties and all the big teams on Saturday, but we were talking about managers in trouble a little bit earlier on, and we were talking about that in the context of Eddie Howe, to be honest with you. But actually, should we start with Rafa Benitez here? I mean, another disappointing defeat for him yesterday after the high point of Monday. Is he a man who really is looking over his shoulder at the moment?
No, I don't think so, because he's obviously seems to have won that internal battle with the guy who was in charge of recruitment, who's gone, hasn't he? And I'm pretty sure he'll have the backing of Bill Kenwright and the owner as well. So I don't think it's an issue. And I would think they are actively looking at the moment, Everton, this is, of taking players in January, because I think, as we've said many times, that they could only spend 1.7 million in August before the first window was open. So they knew they were always going to struggle a little bit. And without arguably the best player, Calvert-Lewin, it's exactly the way we all thought it was going to turn out. They do. I mean, the whole squad needs a kind of a makeover, basically, for want of a better description, because as well at the back they look very, very, very porous.
Yeah, they certainly do. I mean, you look at the Premier League table at the moment, it makes a pretty grim reading from an Everton perspective. They're in 14th, 18 points. They're 7 points above the relegation zone at the moment. So Rafa obviously gets a transfer window, gets a bit more cash, and you feel he's got the full backing then once you feel that he's put his sort of slant on the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's always going to be people who don't like him, Evertonians, because he managed Liverpool, but they've got to get over that a little bit. I mean, the previous manager, just as soon as he got a decent offer, he obviously saw what was happening. He cleared off to Real Madrid, as you would do. So, yeah, no, I think Rafa will be absolutely fine. But he will have to, obviously, in terms of the January transfer window, get that right as much as possible.
Let's step back to Saturday then. As I say, all the big teams winning with a penalty. Liverpool 1-0 winners against Aston Villa on Steven Gerrard's return to Anfield. I mean, there's just so many statistics that support Liverpool and what they're doing on both ends of the pitch at the moment. They've scored in 31 consecutive games now, a club record, and then they didn't allow Villa a single shot on target, which probably suggests to me, Mark, that defence is starting to tighten up and the likes of Van Dijk are getting back to their best.
Yeah, however, I mean, I was at the game and they were just quite happy to sit in, Villa. As you can imagine, I think Stephen and Gary McAllister going back there, I think they thought, you know what, it's no good coming here and getting beaten 4-0 and trying to have a real go. So they sat in, and you know, I have to say though that I thought Villa could easily have had a penalty, and obviously the one that Liverpool got was, you know, everyone looked at it and thought may not have been given. Excuse me, but. Look, Liverpool deserve to win. There's no argument about that whatsoever. And they've had 2 1-0 wins. And I tell you something, it's actually, as strange as this sounds, it's better winning the 2 1-0s rather than winning 3 or 4, because that means everybody has contributed. It means the back four, obviously, and the goalkeeper haven't conceded. So everybody's in the game for the whole of the 90 plus minutes. Whereas if you're 3-0 up with 20 minutes to go and people are showboating and everything, it doesn't quite feel the same. So it's a real kind of, it's a oneness when you win those 1-0 games, and you know they're very, very tight because everybody's obviously done their job.
Matip was really good. I thought he kind of had an influence on the game, and the space seems to open up for him. It can't be a coincidence that it opens up for him so often, because he goes on those runs now once or twice a game, and they're really effective.
Yeah, well, you know, he's arguably one of those people who run quicker with the ball than without it, which is a talent in itself. You know, the ball never gets away from him when he's dribbling, when he's going forward, and he's just an absolutely outstanding player. I don't think, you know, you look at all the players in the world at the moment, are there many better? Are there any better? And I would say no.
Right, the Matip, because that's very high praise. The Liverpool.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said Salah.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking.
No, right. Wow. Sorry. Listen.
No, we'll fix that. Don't worry.
Right,
Matip, best player in the world, says Lauro.
No, yeah.
Matip's the second best player in the world after Salah, Mark, I think is what you're trying to say.
Rewind.
But no, okay, let's go again.
So the thing with Matip is he's a much, much better player when he plays alongside Van Dijk, like all of them are, I suppose. But he has the confidence just to come out and play. And, you know, you'd argue this season probably he's been better than Van Dijk in his performances. But what he does and what it makes such a difference is that he comes into midfield and he breaks the lines. And it's very difficult then if you're set up as an Aston Villa player in midfield and you're kind of man-marking all these different people, and this guy comes from nowhere and decides to run at you and starts to go past, that's a real issue. So, and I know he's not, he doesn't particularly like football, Matty, as strange as this seems. I think his mum and dad are scientists or something like that, and I think he plays football, but he doesn't love football, if that makes any sense.
The other thing that I thought from the game was they created loads of chances. There was the front three didn't quite click the way they have in the past, and Oxlade-Chamberlain probably fluffed his lines. That might have been his big chance to see if he can be another one that plays up there. He wasn't great, but the penalty was absolutely sensational.
In what way?
Well, Emi Martinez did his usual thing, his shtick. It was a long way for it. Martinez was out quite far. He was running side to side. He's pointing down right, pointing down. That's where it's going. That's where it's going. That's where you're going. And so everybody knows it's clearly not going there. It's going the other side. Yeah. And he gets as far as he can, and it's just inside the corner. It was like perfect execution.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I was watching the whole thing, and you just kind of think, you know, if you're the goalkeeper, go for it a little bit. But it's not. I mean, these lads. I mean, people like Salah, they score goals for fun, and if you really think about it, it's a free hit, isn't it? So he's not bothered. He knows no one's going to tackle him when he takes a penalty, and he knows if he hits it low and inside the post, you can't save it. And that's the thing about it. It's if you see a lot of penalties that are saved, the mid-height of the posts, because obviously that's easier for a goalkeeper just to like chuck his arms out, dive to one side, and he hasn't got to get to the very bottom. He hasn't got to get to where the line is, which that's why, you know, Salah's there and he's thinking, really? And I mean, obviously one or two of the other Liverpool lads were given the goalkeeper stick, etc., as you do, but he's just a cool dude, and he was always going to score. But the thing with it is, as you know, Lineker has always said, you know, why, if you were a striker, would you never take a penalty? It's a free hit.
It's a fair point. And the fact is that we did see a lot of them at the weekend, especially on Saturday, and decisive penalties at that. Like, is it just one of those things, one of those days, Mark, or is there a part of you thinking this is getting a little bit too frequent now?
No, well, the thing is, you know, if you really look at this scientifically, I mean, the top teams, they have more of the ball than the opposition, generally, a lot more of the ball, and they camp in the opposition's 18-yard box. So, you know, eventually when you lose a little bit of, I don't know, if you're a defender and you just knock off for a little bit and you go in for a tackle and it's a little bit clumsy, you're going to give away a penalty. So it's just the way that it is, because these teams just do not stop. And, you know, we saw a late goal from Liverpool, didn't we, at Wolves last week, Origi. Obviously late goals through the penalty spot, certainly for latest for City and late for Chelsea, most definitely. So I think it's just it is one of those things. I remember having an argument with Graham Taylor, God love him, when he was talking about being the Watford manager when they came to Anfield, and he said, "Oh, you'd always get a penalty." And I said, "Yeah, Graham," he said, "because 95% of the time we're playing in your box. You couldn't get out of your own half." I said, "That's how it works."
Are you a fan of the Jorginho stutter step when it comes to penalties? Are you looking at him saying he's the guy I want on my team?
If he scores, yeah. Yeah, listen, it's just a personal thing, that, isn't it? It is what it is. These lads as well, I mean, they practice all week. So, you know, you can either take them or you can't take them. And every time you look at him and you look at Salah taking a penalty, you always fancy them to score. But, yeah, style is whatever it is, isn't it? You only look an idiot when you have the stutter and then you miss.
It does seem that the change in Chelsea over the past couple of months, when their form has maybe showed a few worrying signs, is in attack, and scoring from open play has maybe been a little bit of a problem for them. Obviously their wing backs have contributed so many goals to the attack. The defence though feels like it's becoming more of a talking point as well now, Mark, especially when you look at the Antonio Rudiger contract situation. So he's obviously going to be out of contract at the end of this season. I mean, there's talks about other options at centre back for Chelsea as well, and like perhaps the future of Thiago Silva long term as well. How worried would you be if you were a Chelsea fan about how this whole thing is going to play out?
Well, I'm just a little bit worried at the moment because they started to look porous, haven't they? And generally in most of the games in the first 2 or 3 months, I mean, they look brilliant. Well, they were brilliant at the back. I mean, Thiago Silva's he's got a big fat cigar on, or had a big fat cigar on, and some of the performances, it was just so easy for him, and he got himself into fantastic positions defensively. But the goalkeeper's not helped. I think he started to look a little bit scatty. And I think it's a classic case of when he's had really nothing to do, he's occasionally come out of his area and tried to do things and, win balls, etc. And you're kind of thinking, just stay where you are because you'll fall on your arse one day. And I mean, fortunately, he's got away with it. But generally as well, I think he started to look a little bit kind of nervy, and that will affect people who play in front of him because then you're thinking, well, what's he going to do next? And you kind of trying to work out exactly what he is going to do next. So they'll come back. I don't think that's a problem in terms of a contract. It's one of those, isn't it? I mean, you just wait and see. I mean, they're obviously already on fantastic money anyway, and it's whether they've had one or two of them had their head turned by other clubs, obviously, because at the end of the contracts they can walk out the door and go and get zillions from wherever it may be. But I wouldn't think there are many clubs in the world that pay better wages than Chelsea. Certainly not any more of Barcelona and Real Madrid and those people. PSG possibly, but that would be about it. I mean, Chelsea and Man City, certainly wages-wise, they're up there with anybody.
Can I ask you about Manchester United, Mark? Ralph Rangnick has made it back-to-back 1-0 wins in the Premier League as Manchester United manager. In the aftermath of the Norwich game at the weekend, he said, "I wish we had more intensity up front, more physically and more willingness to win the 1-versus-1 duels." Do you see enough in that attacking quartet, say, to give him that intensity up front and to give him that added physicality that he's looking for?
Well, I think the underlying thing for me with that was he was disappointed with the way that they played, and he was obviously delighted Crystal Palace at home, and he played a weakened team, didn't he, in the Champions League, and then he's thinking, well, I've had them now for a week. Most of the ones who started at Norwich, he said, I've had them most for the week, and I think they didn't pressurise. They just didn't look sharp. They all looked a little bit kind of jaded, for want of a better description. And I still think, I mean, they're going about Rashford. He's fallen off a little bit for me, and he seems to have lost a little half a yard of pace and a little bit of, I don't know, a little bit. He's lost a little bit of devil because, he would clatter into one or two people. He was like when he was obviously learning how to play, and obviously someone was saying to him, "Look, somebody kicks you, have a go back and let them know that you're there." And I don't know whether it's all this stuff he's done outside of the game, possibly. And Greenwood's still learning as well. I mean, he is a fantastic talent already, but the kind of strange thing, they only play when the ball comes to them, which, as everybody knows, at that level, you've got to be involved in the whole thing all the time. You've got to be thinking about causing problems for the opposition, and I think that's a problem. In Ronaldo, but you're never going to ever change him. But it's just a case of if you get people in and around him, those two with their pace, I mean, they'd be so difficult to play against. But Norwich deserved to win. I thought at the weekend, I thought they were really, really good, and yet again, De Gea has saved them.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens now over the next little while, especially when it comes to that Manchester United squad, because maybe Rangnick does find that intensity that he needs in attack and that physicality, but there's going to be other areas of the squad that they may need to strengthen just for depth's sake. Like you've got obviously the Pogba situation, and it looks like he might be on the way out. I think Anthony Martial's agent basically said straight out at the weekend that Anthony Martial would like to leave the club. He's not getting minutes. So, as I say, it's just depth. These guys perhaps wouldn't be starters under Rangnick anyway, certainly not Martial. But is there a little bit of a rebuild, actually, or a greater rebuild personnel-wise than people think at Manchester United?
Yeah, I think there is. I couldn't agree any more with you about the two lads, obviously Martial and Pogba. They will be gone. And also, I don't think Pogba's going to fit into a 4-2-2-2, is he? So I think it's a green light for him to go wherever he wants. So no, I think it's like anything. He'll be learning every day, Ranić, and he'll be learning in training and just the way that they are. I'm sure he's already making plans. And there's one thing about a new manager at Manchester United, he's always given lots of money to spend. So I think most definitely they'll be trying to kind of flesh out the squad and obviously get better competition for places. So yeah, they will make some signings, I'm sure, in the January transfer window. And I bet he might have one or two Germans come in as well, because I don't think there's enough in the league of German players, because they are so well coached, and we know what they're like. They're always very, very difficult to play against.
For sure. One last thing then before we let you go, Mark, just one of the other kind of interesting storylines from the past couple of days has been at Arsenal with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang left out due to a disciplinary breach. He said, he was asked about the reasons. He says, we've been very consistent and there are certain non-negotiables in the team that we've set ourselves and as a club, and he's not involved today. And he says that the ban starts on Saturday. Certainly not an easy situation, and one that we want to have our club captain in. But then it was interesting, talking about Lacazette. He said he praised his energy and commitment in the way he leads, saying he really affected the team, which kind of felt a little bit pointed, being like, this is the example that everybody else should be following.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've spoken to you before about Aubameyang. Why didn't Jurgen Klopp sign him? He knew absolutely everything you could possibly need to know about a player that he'd had. And obviously he thought there was a flaw in his personality, which is shown obviously, but also why make him captain? And I never ever get that. It's like, you're never going to change somebody if that's the way that they are. And you just get the impression with Aubameyang that if he doesn't fancy it, he really doesn't fancy it, and you can't carry passengers in the Premier League. So the classic thing is he got his massive contract, and then he played well for a while, and now all of a sudden he plays as though he's not particularly bothered, and obviously that must come through in training. I do know somebody who interviewed him quite a while ago, and Aubameyang kept her waiting over 4 hours. And obviously the Arsenal media guy was going mad, making calls to Aubameyang and saying, you should be here, you're doing this, X, Y, and Z. And eventually turned up 4 hours later. And I just said to the lady who it was, I said, why didn't you just clear off? She said, I was trying to make a point. And she said, the thing was, when he got there, he was absolutely fine. I said, yeah, but kept you waiting for 4 hours. And she said, well, that probably sums him up, doesn't it?
Right, very interesting. Mark Lawrenson, as ever, thanks million for being with us.
Pleasure, boys.
Cheers. It is 9:39 on this Monday morning. You're with us here on OTB AM, brought to you by Gillette. Good morning start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors.